Welcome back, algebra students. This lesson is solving literal equations. This tends to be one of the more difficult lessons for students. And the thing is, it's no different than solving equations. It's undoing operations, just not being able to physically, complete the calculation. Alright? The best way to get good at this is to practice. So keep that in mind. Now, what I always like to do is take a highlighter. And when it tells me what variable I'm solving for, I highlight it because I know that's the variable I want to get by itself. So, in this first example here, I want to solve for r. So what do I have to get rid of? T. What operation is r and t linked by? Multiplication. So to get rid of the t, I have to divide by t. And if I divide one side by t, I divide the other side by t. These t's eliminate, and they leave me with r equals n. I just leave the other side as d over t. Okay, and we are done. Now, the next one says solve for L. If I highlight L, I have to get rid of two things in order to get L by itself. Now, think about it. L, W, and H are all linked by what operation? Multiplication. Which means I have to use division to get rid of W and H. So, I'm going to divide right side by W and H, because that will get rid of them. What I do to one side, I do to the other side. So, I have L is equal to, and I copy this side down, V divided by WH, and we are done. Now the next one, I have to get rid of, or I have to get t by itself. So to get t by itself, I have to get rid of f. What is f linked to t by? Subtraction. So how do I get rid of it? I add it. Now, when I add it to the other side, are v and f like terms? No. So we scoot the f over. So we have t by itself is equal to, you can either write it as v plus f or f plus v. Either way is fine. Now the next one, we want to solve for h. Now what I like to do first in this one is get rid of the fraction. To get rid of 1/2, all I have to do is multiply both sides by 2. So that gives me 2a equals, when the 2's cancel out, I'm left with 1bh, or it ends up being just bh. Now, to get h by itself, I would divide both sides by b. Because b and h are linked by multiplication, so I divide rid of b, and end up with h is equal to 2a over b. And I am done. Next one. I have to get w by itself. So when I look at w, right, I have to get rid of a couple of things here. First, I have to undo addition or subtraction. So, how do I get rid of this 2L? Well, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2L. Can I line it up under P? No, because they're not like terms. Now, to make this easier to see, I'm going to write this as 2W equals P minus 2L. Well, now, to get W by itself, I divide both sides by 2. And W equals P minus 2L, all divided by 2. And we're done. Okay, again, not being able to perform the calculations makes this a little hard to understand, but just write them the way you see them. Next one. If I want to get C by itself, the first thing I have to get rid of is 32. So, how do I get rid of it? I subtract it. Now the reason I got rid of 32, if I get rid of the fraction, I got to distribute the 5 to everything. Makes it a little more complicated. So I'm going to rewrite this as 9/5 C is equal to F minus 32. Now, I'm going to go ahead and then multiply both sides by 5. Now, when I multiply this side by 5, I have to put it or 5 minus 32 in parentheses. So we end up with 9z equals 5 times f minus 32. Now I can divide by 9. Now, our final answer, the best way to read this is 5/9 times f minus 32. Okay? Now, c equals 2 pi r. In order to solve for r, I have to get rid of the 2 pi. Well, all of them are linked by multiplication, so how do I do that? I go ahead and divide. So, 2's cancel out, pi's cancel out, so r is equal to, when I divide both sides by 2 pi, I get c divided by 2 pi. Now, the inverse operation of the exponent 2 is the square root. So when I look at this example here, I would take the square root of the right side to get s by itself. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So this would be s is equal to the square root of a. Next, to get r by itself, first thing I do, get rid of pi. So I divide by pi, I get r squared equals a divided by pi. Now I can go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So r equals, anytime you solve, you should keep in mind you're going to have plus or minus, something that you guys will see later. So plus or minus the square root of a divided by pi. Okay. Now, when it comes to solving literal equations, the number one reason we do it is because solving for y becomes very important second semester. So, solving for y is really easy. Okay. Your goal is just to get it by itself by using your inverse operations like you do when you solve any equation. First example, since 6 is linked to y by multiplication, I'm going to divide. When I divide everything by 6. So y equals 18x divided by 6 gives me 3x. Negative 24 divided by 6 gives me minus 4. I have y all by itself. And now, the next one. Again, in order to get y by itself, I have to get rid of two things. I have to get rid of 3x, and I have to get rid of that 4. I always undo addition or subtraction first. So, what is linked to the y term by addition or subtraction? 3x. How do I get rid of it? I subtract. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Since 12 and 3x are not like terms, I scoot it over. But, I bring out my 4y, and when I rewrite my problem, I'm going to write my x term first. So, negative 3x, it says 12 is positive, I go ahead and I add it. Now my last step here is to get rid of the 4. How do I get rid of it? I divide everything by 4. And I get y equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. And we are done. Okay, the next one, again, I have to bring both the 2x and 18 over in this problem. I subtract 2x, subtract 2x, subtract 18, subtract 18. That undoes the addition or subtraction right away. So what do I have to bring down here? Negative 6y equals negative 2x minus 18. Now, to get rid of the negative 6, I divide everything by negative 6. So I get y equals negative 2 over negative 6. Remember, time your numerator is smaller than the denominator, I end up with a fraction. And if I reduce it, negative divided by is a positive. 2 over 6 reduces to 1/3 x. And negative 18 divided by negative 6 is positive 3. So we would end up with y equals 1/3 x plus 3. This next one, all I have to do here is divide everything by 3. 3's eliminate, y itself, and we end up with 2/3 x plus 27 divided by 3 is 9. And we are done. So 2/3 x plus 9. Again, all the time, undo addition or subtraction first. Subtract 5x. Left with negative 2y equals negative 5x. I'm going to write my x term first, so negative 5x. Since I add it. Then I divide everything by at negative 2. And I end up with y is equal to negative divided by negative is a positive. 5/2 x. Then 22 divided by negative 2 is negative 11. So we end up with 5/2 x minus 11. Finally, here again, subtract the 3x, subtract 3x. Remember, understanding the concept of combining like and undoing operations makes all of these easy. So negative 7y equals, write your x term first, negative 3x minus 35. Then divide everything by negative 7. And we get y equals negative divided by a negative is a positive 3/7 x. And then negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5. So, again, the best way to learn this is to definitely go ahead and do the practice problems and check your answer. Practice problem, check your answer. Practice makes perfect with solving literal equations. The most important part is being able to solve for y in this section. Good luck.